Hello, I'm Dilek Tuna and you're watching A News. Let's see the top stories this hour. Trump says Iran talks fall short as ceasefire pressure grows. Zelenskyy seeks more patriots as Russian strikes intensify. And Azerbaijan marks Republic anniversary as region recalls 1918. US President Donald Trump says talks with Iran are moving but not far enough. Washington has rejected an Iranian state TV report about a draft deal on the Strait of Hormuz as a complete fabrication, while fresh US strikes near Bandar Abbas are adding new pressure to an already fragile ceasefire.
US President Donald Trump says he is still not satisfied with the terms of a possible deal with Iran, despite signs of progress in talks to end the conflict. Speaking at a cabinet meeting, Trump said Iran was eager to reach an agreement, but added that negotiations had not gotten there yet. He repeated that Washington was prepared to resume strikes if talks failed.
And we have the strongest military anywhere in the world, as you know. You saw what we did with Venezuela. That worked out very quickly. And we're doing really equally as well with, but again, people don't want to write about it, with Iran. Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio also said there had been some progress, but gave no details on the remaining disagreements. The comments came after Iranian state television published what it described as parts of a draft agreement. The report claimed the US would ease its naval blockade of Iranian ports, while Iran would restore shipping through the Strait of Hormuz within a month. It also said Iran and Oman would oversee vessel traffic in the strategic waterway. The White House dismissed the report as a complete fabrication. The Iranian report made no mention of Tehran giving up its nuclear program or handing over its stockpile of highly enriched uranium. Meanwhile, the US military carried out new strikes in Iran, targeting a military site in the port city of Bandar Abbas. US Central Command said American forces also shot down 4 Iranian attack drones near the Strait of Hormuz, calling the action defensive and necessary to maintain a fragile ceasefire. Iranian media reported explosions near the city. The latest strikes threaten the already fragile ceasefire between the two sides as negotiations continue to end the 3-month conflict that has disrupted global energy markets and shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Trump also said he was unconcerned about the political impact of a longer conflict with Iran, adding that Iranian leaders were wrong if they believed the upcoming US midterm elections would pressure him into accepting a deal.
In a related development, Iran says it has struck a US airbase in an attack near Bandar Abbas airport. It comes as Iranian media report an unofficial draft deal aimed at easing tensions around the Strait of Hormuz.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard, IRGC, said it carried out a retaliatory attack on a US airbase, which was used to target outskirts of Bandar Abbas airport in the Hormozgan province to the north of the Strait of Hormuz. According to an IRGC statement, it targeted in the early hours of Thursday the US airbase from which an act of aggression by aerial projectiles originated overnight. The force said Iran's response was a serious warning so that the US enemy understands that aggression will not go unanswered, stressing that if it is repeated, the subsequent response will be more decisive. Thursday's encounter between Iran and the US was the second in days, following attacks earlier this week on IRGC's Navy, which the force said was retaliated by downing an advanced US military drone amid the stalled peace process inching forward by mediation of regional countries. Meantime, local Iranian news media, quoting the state-owned IRIB broadcaster, released on Wednesday the unofficial highlights of an interim peace deal with the United States. The draft includes framework of a memorandum of understanding based on Iran's 14-point proposal to end the war, signaling a potential roadmap toward easing long-standing regional tensions. Whereas both Iran and the US have been refraining from any major concession, the released draft says the U.S. has committed to lifting the naval blockade of Iran's southern ports in the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman. In return, Iran has reportedly committed to returning the number of commercial ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz under its control to the pre-war figures within a month. According to the report, the U.S. has also committed to withdrawing its troops from Iran's perimeter. And in the event that a final agreement is reached within a 60-day moratorium, it shall be ratified by a binding UN Security Council resolution. The draft MOU also reiterates that Iran will adopt no step without tangible verification. Turaj Shiralilu from Tehran for A News.
Meanwhile, in Gaza, at least 7 Palestinians have been killed in an Israeli airstrike on a residential building in Gaza City, according to the Palestinian Red Crescent. The Israeli military says the strike targeted 2 senior Hamas members, while Hamas confirmed the death of Commander Mohammed Odeh.
At least 7 Palestinians were killed and 18 injured in an Israeli airstrike Wednesday that targeted an apartment in a residential building in Gaza City, according to the Palestinian Red Crescent Society. It said its crews recovered 7 bodies, including those of 2 children and 2 women following the strike, which targeted a home near Al-Isra Tower. It added that the injured were transferred to Al-Saraya Field Hospital near the site of the strike. The Israeli army claimed that it struck 2 key members of the Palestinian group Hamas in the northern Gaza Strip. The latest Israeli strikes on Gaza came as Palestinians in the enclave marked the celebration of Eid al-Adha. Meanwhile, Hamas has confirmed the killing of Mohammed Odeh, the leader of the Palestinian armed group's military wing in Gaza, in an airstrike in the northern part of the Strip. In a statement on Wednesday, the group said Odeh, along with his wife and 2 sons, was killed when a residential building in Gaza City was targeted a day earlier. The group condemned the attack, describing Odeh as a longtime member who had been active for more than 3 decades and belonged to the founding generation of its armed wing.
The Israeli military has ordered evacuations across large parts of southern Lebanon, declaring the area a combat zone ahead of expanded operations against Hezbollah. The Israel Defense Forces told residents to move north of the Zahrani River, warning of, quote, a great force in response to what it said were repeated ceasefire violations. The order covers hundreds of towns and villages and is the largest evacuation since the April ceasefire. Earlier, Israeli airstrikes hit multiple areas in southern and eastern Lebanon, with Lebanese authorities reporting many casualties. US President Donald Trump is escalating his legal battle with news organizations after a judge dismissed his earlier filing, returning to court with a renewed defamation claim tied to reporting on his alleged ties to Jeffrey Epstein. A new filing sees Trump pursue at least $10 billion in damages from the Wall Street Journal over reporting on his alleged ties to Epstein. A judge previously threw out an earlier version of the case due to legal deficiencies. The disputed reporting referenced a birthday card to Epstein said to bear Trump's signature, which Trump says is fake, despite being released by lawmakers. He's also suing the New York Times, BBC and Des Moines Register, all of which deny wrongdoing. European Union foreign ministers meeting in Cyprus discussed possible future talks with Russia as the war in Ukraine continues. Several ministers accused Russia of showing no real willingness to negotiate and stressed continued support for Ukraine. The discussions come as Kyiv pushes for greater European involvement in diplomatic efforts to end the war. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said the focus should be on the substance of negotiations rather than who would represent Europe in any talks with Moscow.
I find that it's a trap that Russia wants us to walk into, that we discuss who talks to them, and they are already picking who is suitable or who is not. Let's not walk into that trap. Negotiations is always a team effort. You have good cops, you have bad cops, you have a strategy, how you go to the table. So that's why the substance is much more important than who.
And to Ukraine now, where President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is again urging Washington to send more Patriot air defense systems. His appeal comes as Russia intensifies drone and missile attacks, including a strike on Odessa that injured 11 people.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has renewed his appeal to the United States and Congress for additional Patriot air defense systems and interceptor missiles. He said stronger protection is essential to counter Russian ballistic strikes and support efforts toward ending the war.
We understand that much global attention is currently focused on the war in Iran, but the war here in Europe must also be stopped, a very bloody war that has already continued for a fifth year at the full-scale level.
His remarks came as Russia intensified aerial attacks across Ukraine. In the southern city of Odessa, a Russian drone strike injured 11 people, including 2 children, according to regional authorities. 8 were hospitalized, with 3 in serious condition. The attacks damaged residential buildings, a postal branch and a grocery store, while several vehicles caught fire. Emergency crews battled large fires as smoke rose over the area. There was no immediate response from Russia. Separately, authorities in Russian-occupied Crimea said air defense systems intercepted more than 20 Ukrainian drones over Sevastopol and reported damage to several buildings. They also claimed Ukraine used Storm Shadow missiles with no immediate reports of casualties. Meanwhile, Ukrainian artillery units in eastern Donetsk continued operations against Russian positions using domestically produced Bodana self-propelled howitzers. A Ukrainian operator said Russian forces were building deep underground command posts, which were being targeted with high-explosive shells. According to Ukraine's Air Force, Russia launched 163 drones overnight, underscoring continued large-scale aerial exchanges. A new estimate from the head of the British Signals Intelligence Agency, GCHQ, said nearly 500,000 Russian soldiers have been killed in Ukraine since the start of the war.
The Australian government has launched legal action against US company 3M over contamination linked to firefighting foam containing PFAS, also known as forever chemicals. In largest ever government claim, officials are seeking more than $2 billion Australian dollars in damages. The government says 3M claimed the foam was safe and non-toxic, while hiding evidence of harmful environmental effects. Research has linked PFAS chemicals to serious health problems, including liver damage, lower birth weight, and some cancers.
The Commonwealth has today commenced legal action in the Federal Court of Australia against 3M Company and 3M Australia for allegedly withholding information and making false statements about the long-term environmental impacts of the use of 3M firefighting foam containing PFAS. The Commonwealth is seeking more than $2 billion in damages to recover significant past and future expenses incurred in investigating and managing contamination resulting from the historical storage and use of this foam. Let me be clear, this is the largest legal claim ever brought by the Commonwealth.
Uganda is stepping up efforts to contain Ebola, shutting its border with the Democratic Republic of Congo as authorities try to limit the spread of the virus. Officials say the restrictions will remain in place for 4 weeks. Uganda says the border closure takes effect immediately, with exemptions for Ebola response teams, humanitarian and security operations, as well as food and cargo transport. Officials say anyone authorised to enter from Congo must complete 21 days of self-isolation. Uganda has reported 7 Ebola cases and 1 death, while Congo's Ituri province remains the centre of the outbreak, with more than 900 suspected cases and over 220 deaths.
Uganda is temporarily closing the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo with immediate effect. The only exceptions are for authorized Ebola response teams, the humanitarian operations, the food and cargo transportation, and security, but all these still will be under the strict health screening and monitoring protocols across the border.
And on climate, the UN Weather Agency and UK Met Office say global temperatures are likely to temporarily pass the 1.5 degree threshold by 2030. The report also warns of faster Arctic warming, shrinking sea ice and shifting rainfall patterns.
The United Nations Weather Agency and the UK Met Office forecast global mean near-surface temperatures will range between 1.3 and 1.9 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Researchers say it is very likely the 1.5 degree Paris Agreement threshold will be temporarily exceeded for at least 1 year between 2026 and 2030, with at least 1 year likely to surpass the record set in 2024.
Temporarily crossing the 1.5 degrees threshold does not mean that we've failed the Paris Agreement, as this is referring to a long-term average over 20 years, rather than a single-year exceedance, which is what we're looking at in this report. However, as we get closer to that threshold, we expect to see more and more exceedances of 1.5 degrees, which has already occurred in 2024 when the global temperature was 1.5 degrees. And the science is very clear that the window to keeping the global average temperature to 1.5 degrees is closing rapidly.
The report highlights intensified warming in the Arctic, where winter temperatures are forecast to rise more than 3.5 times the global average, reaching around 2.8 degrees Celsius above the 1991 to 2020 baseline. It also says sea ice is expected to melt in March in parts of the Barents Sea, Bering Sea and the Sea of Okhotsk over the next half-decade.
And also the warming of the Arctic can cause quite significant impacts on weather systems as well. So the kind of cold Arctic temperatures kind of act as a barrier for the high up atmospheric winds in the polar vortex. And if these are disrupted by the warming of the Arctic, this could potentially disrupt the polar vortex and could bring more severe weather events, especially to kind of northern latitudes.
Forecasts also point to wetter winters across much of the Northern Hemisphere, including Northern Europe, Alaska, Siberia and the Sahel between May and September, while the Amazon is expected to become drier during the same period.
Now to sport, where English football club Crystal Palace are celebrating a historic night in Europe. Their latest victory marks another major step in a remarkable period for the London side. Crystal Palace beat Rayo Vallecano 1-0 in the UEFA Conference League final in Leipzig, with Jean-Philippe Mateta scoring the only goal after half-time. The win caps a remarkable 2-year spell under manager Oliver Glasner, who also guided the London club to FA Cup success last season. Glasner is still expected to leave when his contract expires, but Palace will now play in the Europa League in the 2026-27 season.
I think this goal gave us a lot of confidence, because then we were really electric. So we played forward with incredible free kick from Jeremy Pino, the next chance from JP, and honestly I was a little bit worried, because very often, I don't know if you say the same in English, is when the goals you don't score, you concede. And we could have decided it. And then, of course, it's just 1-0. They went all in, all the tall players up front, kicking the balls long. But yeah, we defended then so well as a team. And so at the end, I think we deserved the win.
I was looking for the pass first. I don't shoot too much, as you've probably just said there, one shot. But yeah, as I was going forward with the ball, I was originally looking for a pass. I seen Munoz was at the back post. I was going to play it to him when I was getting a bit closer, and then they just kept going back when there was more space. So I got close enough to have a shot, and thankfully it ended up going straight to JP. So it was a good shot.
We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll discuss the latest developments involving Russia, Ukraine, and Europe's future security architecture. Stay tuned. Welcome back to A News. The Kremlin says President Vladimir Putin remains open to negotiations with Europe regarding the future security architecture of the continent, with Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov insisting that discussions about Europe's future cannot happen without European participation. The comments come as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy warned that the war could continue for at least another 6 months, suggesting the conflict may remain prolonged despite ongoing diplomatic discussions. Joining me now to discuss further is Lieutenant General Marco Serrona from Lisbon, Portugal. General, welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Now, Dmitry Peskov says negotiations about Europe's future security architecture are inevitable and cannot happen without Europe. Is this genuine diplomatic openness by Moscow or an attempt to reposition itself strategically?
Good afternoon. Let's see. It's, I suppose, in the Russian point of view, it comes to a need because the Russians have noticed that the United States are very much engaged in Middle East, and they will be there for months for sure. And so, trying to figure out a solution that Europeans, when you call Europeans, we can speak about the European Union, NATO, European pillar of NATO, just countries. It's something that it needs to be settled, of course. But nevertheless, I suppose that the European Union is ready to start. We have heard that from several leaders. So it's and from the Russian side, it's I don't know if you can call it a sign of weakness, but the real thing is that the things are not running very well for Russia in the front line, and even inside the Russian territory with the capability of the Ukraine to attack every day. Lots of infrastructures, and somehow taking the war inside Russia. That is something that it's a problem. So Zelenskyy told us in the last days that he expects that the war finishes in 6 months. Let's see if it's true or not. But it seems that the Kremlin administration, especially Putin, is figuring out that. It's time to speak with the Europeans. Even if the US is still involved, of course, at some point in time, the Europeans have to jump to the table. Otherwise, it will be difficult to settle some kind of framework or architecture, security architecture in the future, in a sense that we know that the United States are trying to get out of Europe's security. So it's something that Russia already realized that will be a need. But this is just a rhetoric for the time being. So because as Kaja Kallas said, the problem is the substance of the conversations and what's going to be discussed.
And General,
but nevertheless, it's positive.
Okay. Now, the phrase "future architecture of Europe" is significant. What exactly does Russia mean when it talks about reshaping Europe's security order?
Let's see. I suppose that Russia see a future security architecture in Europe, where Russia has to be a peer, a partner of the Europeans. A partner in the sense that the things have to be discussed and have to be somehow a kind of an understanding about the role of Russia in European security. That is something that is we have seen in the last 80 years with the Soviet Union. That the Soviet Union at the time, but Russia was the main country, the main country of the Soviet Union, where the Soviet Union wanted to play a role inside Europe, and that's come to end with the end of the Cold War, where the weakness or the perception of the weakness of Russia has led to the system that we have experienced in the last 30 years. So, the United States, powerful, the only superpower, with dictating the rules, so to speak, with NATO in the security of the Euro-Atlantic area, where Europe is inside, and now without the United States in the future, we don't know if it's true for all the future or just in the Trump administration, but nevertheless, we have heard from previous presidents, Obama, starting with Obama, that the main focus should be in the Indo-Pacific. So Europeans have to come with more robustness to take care of their own security. It's something that has to be discussed, because in the previous times, it was a kind of you have seen from the Oslo and the Helsinki agreements in the 70s. That the agreement was between the United States and the Soviet Union, and after Russia, of course. So it's a kind of an agreement between two superpowers. That is not anymore the reality in the ground. Russia is not anymore a superpower. It's a military power, of course, but it's weak under the economic point of view, and that has to be taken on board. The Europeans as a security organization, European Union is very weak, and the United States are easing their participation in the European security. It's something that for the future it's needed for sure. The main problem is the lack of confidence between the Europeans and the Russians, and the Russians and the Europeans. So and the output of the end, the conditions of the end of the Ukrainian war are going to dictate the position of Russia and the position of the Europeans, and the role of Ukraine in the future, of course. It's not easy, but it's something that has to be discussed for sure. If it's the time now or in a couple of months, it's difficult to say. Nevertheless, it's always good that direct conversations between Europeans from the European Union and the Russians, directly or mediated, have to start as soon as possible. That's important in my view.
So despite the distrust between the two sides, as you outlined there, Russia appears increasingly focused on direct engagement with Europe rather than only Washington now. Is Moscow trying to exploit differences between Europe and the US over Ukraine's strategy?
Yes, I suppose so, because Russia we are experiencing the situation in the ground that it's not very favorable to Russia. Nevertheless, Russia has been able to achieve a very strategic goal from the very beginning, and from the end of the Cold War. The main strategic goal of Russia was somehow to break the cohesion of NATO. And that happens not due to Russia or something that Russia has done, more due to the United States and the position of the current administration concerning NATO. So the other point is that European Union was not a very reliable partner for Russia, not even for the United States, as you know, from the current administration. So it seems, and that could be true, that in the Russian perspective, it will be easier trying to discuss security issues with a fragmented European Union, because we know that not all the countries have the same position. Some countries are more keen to return to more close cooperation with Russia. Others are not in that line. So it's something that is important to the European Union to have a minimum strategy. And what will be the role of the United Kingdom? It's an important partner, but it's not a member of the European Union. So the Europeans have, first of all, construct the model, construct the people, nominate the people to participate in the discussion. Could be European Union plus UK, of course. And so, but from the Russian side, you see they see some to take some advantage from some fragmentation of the European Union. Nevertheless, the Russian could be a little bit weaker now. At least it seems from what we know from Russia, from inside Russia now. And so let's see. It will not be easy, but at the end of the days are going to be discussed between the two most important partners that were to who the security of Europe is more interesting. Of course, it's the Europeans. The Western Europeans and Central Europe and Russia. Nevertheless, it's not quite clear for everybody that Russia could be considered a European nation or country. Of course, we have a lot of discussions even inside the Russia about the Euro-Asianism, and so let's see if Russia could be in the future more focused in Europe. Or other than that, see Europe as a threat.
General, thank you.
Initially with NATO, now with the European Union. So let's see if it can be built enough confidence to have a better solution that is wartime.
General, thank you so much. We're a little bit short on time now. We're a little bit short on time. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your analysis.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
After the break, we'll take a look at the key stories shaping the region. Stay with us. Welcome back to A News, and now we turn to our regional stories. Russia to Armenia transit continues to move through Azerbaijan. A train carrying urea and flour has left Bilajari station for Armenia via Georgia, as Baku also reports rising exports and fuel supplies to Yerevan. Our A News correspondent Chimnaz Shahlar reports from the ground.
Russia to Armenia transit keeps moving through Azerbaijan from here, Bilajari station. A train loaded with 126 tons of urea and 67 tons of flour left Bilajari today, heading toward Büyük before continuing through Georgia and Armenia. So far, Azerbaijan has facilitated the transit of more than 28,000 tons of grain, over 4,000 tons of fertilizer, 1,033 tons of aluminium and 68 tons of buckwheat from Russia to Armenia. Alongside transit shipments, Azerbaijan has also supplied petroleum products to Armenia. So far, this has included over 10,000 tons of diesel and nearly 4,000 tons of gasoline in total. According to the State Customs Committee, Azerbaijan's export to Armenia totaled nearly $10 million in January-April this year. I'm Chimnaz Shahlar with Ilkim Mehdiyev for A News.
As Azerbaijan marks 108 years since its first republic, late May carries wider meaning across the South Caucasus. It was a period when Azerbaijan, Georgia and Armenia emerged from the ruins of an empire to pursue modern independence. Our next report looks back at those turbulent days.
In the final decades of the Russian Empire, the South Caucasus was home to a mosaic of nationalities: Armenians, Georgians and Azerbaijanis, each with distinct identities but living under centralized Russian control. The 1917 Russian Revolution shattered that control, unleashing a power vacuum and a scramble for self-determination. As the Bolsheviks seized power in the north and the Ottoman Empire advanced from the west, the South Caucasus became a geopolitical crossroads, torn between collapsing empires, foreign invasions, and rising internal tensions. After the collapse of the Russian Empire, a short-lived attempt to unify the South Caucasus emerged: the Transcaucasian Democratic Federative Republic, declared in April 1918. But fundamental differences between Georgia, Armenia and Azerbaijan in national goals, foreign policy and positions toward the Ottomans and Bolsheviks led to its rapid collapse. By May, the federation dissolved, with Georgia the first to withdraw. Influential Georgian political and intellectual groups did not acknowledge Soviet power, which was established in Russia after the revolution of 1917. In Georgia, the path to independence began with a national convention in Tbilisi in November 1917. The National Council of Georgia was elected, and on 26 May 1918, the Democratic Republic of Georgia was proclaimed. Led by the Menshevik Noé Ramishvili, Georgia quickly built democratic institutions. The 1919 elections brought a multi-party parliament with protections for minorities, women's rights, and even the abolition of the death penalty in its first constitution, adopted on 21 February 1921. But just 4 days later, under cannon fire, the Red Army invaded, and on 25 February, Georgia was annexed by Soviet forces. The Azerbaijan Democratic Republic was declared just 2 days after Georgia, on 28 May 1918, in Tbilisi, because Baku was under Soviet control at the time. The city was governed by Sovnarkom, the highest executive authority of the Soviet republics. This was followed by the brief rule of the Central Caspian dictatorship that replaced the Baku Commune after the July coup of 1918. Meanwhile, the Azerbaijani National Council, led by Mamad Amin Rasulzadeh of the Musavat Party, governed from Ganja. On 15 September 1918, Ottoman and Azerbaijani forces entered Baku in the decisive Battle of Baku, liberating the city and restoring it as the capital. Azerbaijan went on to become the first secular parliamentary republic in the Muslim East. The republic lasted only 23 months, until 28 April 1920, when Red Army entered Baku, and Azerbaijan was incorporated into the Soviet Union. Armenia also declared independence on 28 May 1918. Led by the Armenian Revolutionary Federation, known as Dashnaks, the First Republic of Armenia emerged in the midst of war, famine, and displacement. The Batum Treaty in June 1918 forced Armenia to cede 20,000 square kilometers to the Ottomans. Aram Manoukian, widely regarded as the founding father of the Republic, played a vital role in repelling Ottoman advances and stabilizing the state under extreme conditions. But without unity or strong defenses, Armenia became vulnerable to outside threats. By December 1920, it fell to the Bolsheviks and became the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic. Despite lasting barely 2 years, the first South Caucasus republics laid enduring foundations. They established currencies, universities, and constitutions, promoted native languages, and supported the development of theatre, literature, and music. Yerevan State University was founded in 1919. In Azerbaijan, Baku State University opened the same year. Young Republic of Azerbaijan granted women full voting rights, ahead of many Western nations. In Georgia, women entered parliament and helped draft the first constitution. Armenian banknotes, printed in Armenian, Russian, and French, symbolized sovereignty. At the Paris Peace Conference, South Caucasus leaders sought international recognition. US President Woodrow Wilson acknowledged their aspirations, though global powers prioritized stability over new borders. "We do not want to divide the world into small pieces," Wilson told the Azerbaijani delegation. Yet for the peoples of the South Caucasus, unity proved impossible. Still, their brief independence shaped national identities, launched institutions, and created symbols that re-emerged after 1991, when these nations finally reclaimed the independence first imagined in 1918.
Staying in the South Caucasus, where Washington is stepping up its regional engagement. Senior US diplomats have held talks in Yerevan and Tbilisi, with trade, connectivity and security high on the agenda. A-News' Nini Nikolashvili has the story.
Washington is stepping up its focus on the South Caucasus. In just days, senior US diplomats held high-level meetings in both Yerevan and Tbilisi, signaling renewed American engagement in a region undergoing major geopolitical change. In Georgia, the U.S. delegation spent 3 days meeting government officials, opposition figures, and religious leaders with talks centered on trade, connectivity, and regional security. A key topic was the Middle Corridor, the trade route linking China and Central Asia to Europe through the Caspian Sea, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey. Cargo traffic along the corridor has been growing rapidly as companies seek alternatives to route through Russia. Georgia remains a crucial transit hub with U.S.-backed projects such as the Porty-New Seaport, highlighting Washington's economic interests in the region. Before arriving in Tbilisi, the same delegation joined Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Yerevan, where the U.S. and Armenia signed the TRIP framework agreement aimed at boosting regional transport connectivity. The diplomatic push comes as Russian influence in the South Caucasus continues to decline, with Washington seeking a greater role through investment, infrastructure, and political engagement. For Georgia, the visits also carried a political message. Alongside meetings with government officials, U.S. diplomats also held talks with opposition representatives, suggesting Washington remains closely engaged with developments inside the country. Georgian Parliament Speaker Shalva Paplashvili said that Tbilisi acts in its own national interest, but the intensity of U.S. diplomacy this week shows the relationship remains a priority for both sides. Nini Nikolaishvili, Tbilisi, A News.
And staying in the region, US President Donald Trump has backed Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan ahead of June's parliamentary elections. His comments came after Washington and Yerevan signed new agreements on strategic partnership, critical minerals and regional connectivity.
US President Donald Trump expressed support for Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and his ruling Civil Contract Party ahead of crucial parliamentary elections. In a Truth Social post on Wednesday, Trump said Pashinyan completely shares his vision of peace and prosperity for Armenia and the entire South Caucasus region. Trump also said the US and Armenia would break ground together on TRIP, which he said would transform the South Caucasus and help American energy companies gain access from Central Asia all the way to the US. The endorsement comes just 1 day after US Secretary of State Marco Rubio visited Yerevan, where Washington and Armenia signed a strategic partnership agreement, as well as agreements linked to critical minerals and the proposed TRIP corridor. Trump's support also came as Armenians preparing for major election. Armenians are set to vote on June 7th in the country's first parliamentary election since 2021, which is seen as a key test for Pashinyan amid shifting regional alliances. Voters will not only choose a new parliament, but by extension, a prime minister. Armenia's growing ties with the West have triggered concern in Russia. On Wednesday, Moscow said it had warned Armenia that it could suspend or terminate supplies of discounted oil, gas, and rough diamonds if Yerevan continued pursuing its bid to join the European Union. The warning came ahead of the June 7th parliamentary election, with opinion polls showing Pashinyan's Civil Contract Party maintaining a comfortable lead over pro-Russian rivals. Armenia, a landlocked nation of around 3 million people, has traditionally maintained close ties with Russia and remains a member of the Russian-led Eurasian Economic Union.
To Central Asia now, where China and Turkmenistan are deepening cooperation on energy and connectivity. Their foreign ministers met in New York, where both sides pointed to major projects and closer bilateral ties. Aman Nur Maktoum has more.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said that China is ready to work with Turkmenistan to act on the consensus reached by the two countries' leaders, advance cooperation on major projects, and inject fresh vitality into bilateral relations. Wang made the remarks during talks with the Turkmen Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Rashid Meredov held in New York on the sidelines of a United Nations Security Council high-level meeting. Wang thanked Meredov for making a special trip to New York to attend the Security Council meeting, saying that the more complex and volatile the international situation becomes, the more imperative it is to uphold multilateralism and safeguard the authority of the United Nations. China and Turkmenistan maintain close cooperation in the energy sector, with Turkmenistan serving as one of China's major natural gas suppliers through the China Central Asia gas pipeline network. In recent years, both countries have also expanded collaboration in trade and connectivity. For his part, Meredov said that Turkmenistan highly values its comprehensive strategic partnership with China, noting that the two sides share deep political mutual trust, engage in frequent high-level exchanges, and enjoy strong momentum in pragmatic cooperation. He added that Turkmenistan is ready to work with China to advance cooperation on major projects, including natural gas development, expand collaboration in trade and connectivity, and elevate bilateral ties to a new level. Manu Makhtoum, A-News, Beijing.
Let's turn our attention to Moscow now, where Russia and Afghanistan have signed a military technical cooperation agreement on the sidelines of an international security forum. Officials say both sides discussed bilateral cooperation, but no further details of the deal have been released. Tamim Bahis has the details.
The agreement was signed during the International Security Forum in Moscow, which is being held from May 26th to 29. According to officials, Afghanistan's Defense Minister Yaqub Mujahid and Sergei Shoigu, Secretary of Russia's Security Council, were present at the signing ceremony. The forum was initiated by Russia's Security Council and has brought together officials to discuss security-related matters. In a statement, Afghanistan's Ministry of Defense said Yaqub Mujahid and his accompanying delegation met with Sergei Shoigu on the sidelines of the Moscow International Security Conference. The statement said both sides discussed bilateral cooperation as well as a number of other important issues. The signing of the military technical cooperation agreement marks another step in engagement between Moscow and Kabul. No further details have yet been released about the contents of the agreement or the specific areas of military technical cooperation covered under the deal. Tamim Bahis in Kabul, A-News.
We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll turn to the regional significance of Independence Day in Azerbaijan and a military parade in Armenia commemorating Republic Day. Stay with us. Welcome back to A-News. We now shift our focus to a regional story for discussion. Azerbaijan is marking Independence Day, while neighbouring Armenia prepares for a military parade commemorating Republic Day, just days before parliamentary elections scheduled for June the 7th. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has said the parade will feature foreign military hardware, including equipment procured from NATO countries. Comments that are already attracting regional attention amid continuing sensitivities surrounding security and regional stability in the South Caucasus. Joining me now to discuss is Dr. Vakhtang Maisaya, a professor of politics and a political analyst. Professor, welcome to A-News.
Thank you very much. I would like to welcome you and greet you and to your audience, to you and to your audience.
Thank you so much. Now, Professor, Azerbaijan's Independence Day and Armenia's Republic Day, military parade rather, are unfolding almost simultaneously. How symbolically important is that timing for the region?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to congratulate our friendly Azerbaijani nations, peoples, and the government with the Day of Independence. It's a historic day. It's the most important day, and it's like I just about indicated about solidarity and new regional cooperation trends, which we are now facing for our region. First of all, the day is historic because it's 1918, just about national councils of Georgian then society, Azerbaijani society, and Armenian society just simultaneously declared its independence. And the first time, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan became a full-fledged independent nations, which was flattered till for Armenia and Azerbaijan till 1920, and for Georgia it's been just more protected till 1921. And of course, I would like to mention that history memory also just reiterated and also coming back. Why? Because 1918 till 1921, even Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, they just stood together toward each other to protect and defend their independence. Even I would mention that in 1919 September, the regional peaceful conference was just about assembled and held in Tbilisi with Azerbaijani, Georgian, and Armenian then just authorities and leaders' participations. And of course, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, they also just wanted to join the League of Nations. It's the most, by that time, most influential intergovernmental international organizations. And it was like just about a regional initiative. But unfortunately, by that time, the Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan failed to become as a full-fledged members of the international society, just about members. But this time has been just also just come back and also just reinvested and again, and with for 2 days just about conditions and contemporary conditions. And I guess that Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan simultaneously also just celebrated their independence with military parade, with as like a day of republics, all the three nations, because 2 days ago, Georgia also celebrated the biggest just about just applaudance and biggest just about volume of celebrations. The Day of Independence, even conscripts took the oath at the central part of the Tbilisi. And it was a really just about day of consolidation of the whole nations. I mean about Georgia, but I think so that even Azerbaijan and Armenia also celebrated about re-establishment, reconnections of their ties as a brotherhood and friendly nations, as the good neighbors. And I guess that the Azerbaijani and Armenia also just, I would say, they blocked their relations, I mean the trade, economic relations, and also just try to be promoted their legacy. Yes.
Professor Moso, I'm just a little bit mindful of the time. I'd like to get one other question in, if you don't mind. Now, the mention of NATO-linked military equipment inevitably draws attention internationally. Could this deepen concerns in Moscow about Armenia's growing geopolitical positioning?
Yes, for sure. It's all indications implicated that Russia is very just, how to say, very just angry, and also just could even just conduct irrelevant just steps. I would like to mention that about 2 days, very harsh statement by the Deputy National Security Council and ex-president of Russia, Mr. Dmitry Medvedev, also indicated Russia could possibly intervene, even by military means, in order just to get back Armenia on its own track, how Russian deemed and considered. That's why I guess that Nikol Pashinyan also just reflected full independence from the Moscow, from the Kremlin politics. And it's also just Russia also want to reinforce their presence in the region, not on expenses of the Georgia, Armenian, and Azerbaijani independence and just sovereignty at a time of being. So that's why just about we should be aware just about consent, and we should also be very aware of any aggressiveness which was taken place by the Kremlin authorities and leadership with their totalitarian just about mindedness in their own way. And of course, we should be just create new type of the regional cooperation. And I guess if possible, just to build a new regional security fora in case of the three nations with joint effort to also just protect, as our predecessors tried to protect themselves in 1919 years.
Professor, we're out of time. It's been most insightful. I appreciate you joining us on the program today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's the news for this hour. Stay tuned to A News for all the latest updates.